Here we are, all set for some cricket and conversation. This is Cricbuzz Live, brought to you in association with our fantasy partner, My 11 Circle. We're all set for a spicy contest, but before we even get there, since we've come to you at a new time with well before the toss of that particular game, we thought we'd get you into a little bit of a discussion, something that has been the talking point of the league so far, with each team having played one game. Now, if we look back at the 4 games, we'll see a few names. Yes, so many international players have descended on our shores, but a few key names we're going to look at. But first, of course, let's say a huge hello to Joy Bhattacharya and Harsha Bhogle. Good evening, gents.
Good evening. Good evening. You used an interesting word that might betray your loyalties. You said it's a spicy contest. Is that referring to the food you're eating back in Kolkata, or about the most one-sided contest in recent years at the IPL?
Ouch, ouch, ouch. That hurt, Harsha.
Early shots fired. I didn't know if I'd get a chance later on. I didn't know how the game was going to go. I thought I'd get that in straight away.
I think that is just a little taste, and this is no reference to food, of what's to come in our conversation over the next 40 minutes or so. But if you think of some of the names we've been talking about, be it Chetan Sakaria, Abdul Samad, Deepak Hooda, Harshal Patel, Avesh Khan, Rahul Tripathi, Riyan Parag, Arshdeep Singh, these are names that are not only up-and-coming players, they're basically players who are not in the reckoning of the Indian T20 setup right now, in the international setup. Harsha, I'm going to come straight to you. I think that is the big story. Sometimes it's good to have one emerging player, but all these are emerging players who haven't yet emerged.
Correct. Nitish Rana, of all those, to some extent, Nitish Rana. The others have been around for a while. Harshal Patel, for example, has been around for a while. Rahul Tripathi has been around for a while. It's not that they're setting the scene on fire. So maybe they're working on different skills. Maybe they're just preparing on T20 right around the year. Maybe they're developing those skills. But it's true. The number of young players coming through. Yesterday was a case in point. We're all sitting in the commentary box thinking, right, who's going to bowl the last over? Is it going to be Jai Richardson? Is it going to Riley Meredith? No, Meredith conceded too many. Jai Richardson, yeah, maybe. And he goes to Arshdeep Singh, and there's this little slip of a Sardar boy, and he gives him a 7-2 field. That's not easy to bowl to. And he defends it. I'm being very impressed with how ready the other people are.
I'm glad.
Joy, sorry about that intro. Sorry.
I'm glad Harsha brought up that, because with bat in hand, you're talking about the quality, the languidity of the stroke play, like we saw some of the big sixes that were hit, and they were not by Sanju Samson. But with ball in hand, I think it's an interesting point Harsha makes, because that's pressure. You talk about the key 19th over, but also the last over when you're defending at the end of a game. And the way he spoke at the end of the game just showed the kind of head they have on their shoulders. Forget all the talent.
Yeah, truly, this word I think is overused now, totally overused. But fearless is what comes to mind. For some reason, they're really much, much better prepared. And every year that we see that this IPL tournament goes on, they get better and better prepared. The other thing that's working very well is that every team has great analytics staff, great coaching staff who tell them what to do. And a lot of people now use this in the off season. So, for example, even their physical routines, any guy who's lucky enough to be part of an IPL franchise will take his complete manual for the rest of the year and keep getting back to the trainers, the IPL trainers, and saying, am I doing this right? Should I change this exercise? So they're taking advantage of it. And that's what a lot of kids used to originally, what used to happen 7-8 days back is, if the kid didn't play, they'd say, oh, I'm in the IPL, then I'm not playing. They just go back, put their head down and go away. Now they're saying, I have an opportunity to be a part of some of the finest, the cutting edge cricket community right now, in terms of analytics, in terms of mechanics, and let me take advantage of it, even if I'm not playing. And you see a result of that. So many of these guys have been in IPL franchises, but not been first 11 players are now coming through.
There's one other thing, Joy. They have a lot of these warm-up games, and they go with form in those warm-up games. So even if you've got a big player, but he's looking out of form, say Sergio Aguero's playing for City, but you know what? He's looking a bit rusty. No, thank you. We'll get someone else as striker. We'll play Gabriel Jesus maybe or whatever. We'll get someone in. I'm not trying to show off, Gautam. Stop smiling at me. I'm not trying to show off. I'm just giving you an example. Because
I like the way you went with his team. That's his team.
I didn't even know.
No, it's not my team.
I thought City was his team. I thought everyone had Chelsea, Liverpool United, some Arsenal here and there. I didn't know.
Joy, City is nobody's team.
I thought City was nobody's team. That's why I said City. Anyway, so you look at what happened in the first game that Delhi played. For example, I know Ishant Sharma had a slight niggle, but you had Umesh Yadav available. Who played? Not Umesh Yadav. They played Avesh Khan. Because Avesh Khan was looking better in training, was looking better in practice. So no reputations. I mean, Umesh Yadav's got a reputation. Sorry, thank you. Avesh Khan's bowling better at the moment. So Avesh Khan plays. And I think that is also what is happening. But Joy's point, I mean, I wasn't aware that they do it round the year. It's incredible that these guys are being given these training routines, prep routines. And there's one other factor, which is the quality of people who are watching them. Yesterday's hero, for example, Chetan Sakaria, just a little fellow. I mean, I actually thought that I was going to see on 10 standard kid. You know, just so happy to be around given all that's happened in his life, just, you know, wide-eyed being there. But what was Chetan Sakaria doing last year? He came to some of the trials, but he was an RCB net bowler. Now, even if you're an RCB net bowler, who are you bowling to? In the nets, AB de Villiers is not saying, oh, there's a kid, you know, I come, okay, let me just not make him feel bad. So I'm bowling to AB de Villiers in the nets. I mean, if I was a kid, I would pay for that. So I think they're getting ready even when they're outside the system through this new concept of net bowlers. I mean, do you know the Chennai Super Kings have Hardus Villian? He's in the squad. He's not in the main team, but he's in the support staff. He's bowling in the nets, for example. So even there, they're getting an opportunity to impress.
We have some interesting numbers. We thought we'd put it in perspective because we saw Sakaria bowling at the end. Of course, Arshdeep was outstanding with that final over. But if we look back at the 20th overs and have a look at this, we've got Sakaria, Harshal Patel, Arshdeep, of course, and the kind of company they're keeping are the regulars in a Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, Chris Wokes, Dre Russ, of course, was forced to bowl then. And in a sense, Marco Jansen is a youngster.
No, so absolutely. I think the kind of things that they're doing right now is that Harshal Patel is ready to bowl. They're ready. And look, none of these guys are going to be totally unprepared. That's the other thing that happens now much, much better than it used to happen even 5-6 years before. So they tell them that, you know, Marco, you might be bowling the last over. So they mentally have an opportunity to prepare. They would have played that exactly as Harsha was talking, the warm-up matches. They would have had them bowl death overs and say, you know, how is this going? And remember one more thing. It's a very interesting stat. One of the things that a lot of IPL teams note and they say very honestly is for them, the crucial over is the 19th. They feel that it's better going with the best bowler on the 19th, stopping the flow so that basically the asking rate in the 20th is much higher. Now, the point is, if it works, it's very good. But if it doesn't work, you at the 20th are left defending anything between 9 and 13. And that is so difficult if you're a bowler.
Well, this is a discussion we're going to, of course, go back to time and again because those are not the last names you're going to see. I can promise you that. Let's remind you what we have in store today. It is, of course, whether or not some people might feel it's slightly one-sided. And of course, the numbers do support that. But in fact, it is a clash between two giants. Kolkata against Mumbai. This is match number 5. And these are the first two teams who will be facing a second game in this tournament. This is where we stand so far with one each. In terms of the head-to-head, since it was mentioned, why don't we bring that up one time? Harsha, you want to talk us through this?
Well, I mean, the numbers tell the story. I've never been a fan of head-to-head in the IPL simply because squads change so rapidly. I mean, every 3 years you could have a completely different side coming. So I don't know if there are wounds going into the match. Some of the Kolkata players will have those wounds going into the match because we discussed last year and the year before that. I'm not big on head-to-head simply because so much changes. I mean, this year, last year, for example, Kolkata was all over the place. They had injury issues, they had captaincy issues. This year, they're far more settled, they're more solid. It's a completely different Kolkata side this year than last year. So while those wounds are there, and I'm not trying to placate Joy and make him feel a lot better, but I'm not a big fan of head-to-head numbers.
Yeah, it is the cliche.
This is probably the only one that tells a story over the years. Because, I mean, even if you break it down, when were Kolkata's glory years? 12 to 15? 11, 12 to 15 thereabouts, the Gambhir era, if you want to call it that. They were par with Mumbai in those days. So I'm not expecting any difference now. Also, I wonder if it's a good toss. I mean, what are they doing? They're fielding first. Go.
Yes, Kolkata, just to remind all of you, have in fact won the toss and they've asked Mumbai to bat. But just a quick reaction, Joy, on that, because sometimes we say, look, it's a new day, it's a new place, it's a new tournament. But there are times you just look at the opposition and say, even if someone doesn't throw those numbers in your face, it's just something between that matchup, is it?
I really don't think so. I tend to agree with Harsha. There's so much new blood right now out there that they really don't care. And I don't think Owen Morgan cares very much for these numbers. Brendan McCullum wouldn't care for these numbers. They haven't really faced it. Even if you remember, why this legend has been set up is actually because the first match that KKR played against Mumbai in Mumbai. If you remember, that was the match which was a complete blowout where Shoaib Akhtar played and I think KKR was out for 68. They were shot out for 68 total. A lot of KKR supporters were there in black and, that was a scarring experience for the owners. But I think even Brendan McCullum was on a flight and back in New Zealand by that time. He was far away and gone. None of this team has any knowledge of that or was a part of that team at all. So I don't think they're carrying it as much as the owners might be carrying it. But hey, the owners are not going to be in the dressing room. The team is going to be, and they're anxious. In fact, I think the advantage is with Kolkata because if they lose this, they're 1-1. But if Kolkata is looking at this and saying, you know what, if we get across and beat the defending champions in our second game, then this tournament we're going to look very dangerous. If we lose, it's not that much. We are still 1-1. But if we win, hey, it's a big one. They'll play much more freely.
Yeah. I've not played at that level, but if I was, I would actually welcome someone putting that in the change room. In my sphere of life, if someone put that in front of me, I would say, right, that's what I want. You think I can't? And that would actually spur me on, which is also why I've not really understood the home away thing. I would think if I'm going away and people expect me to lose, I'll say, right, I'll show you. Because away, I'd enjoy going and playing away far more than playing home. So I'm not putting too much store on that. Let's see what happens. I actually believe that in this year's tournament, as in last year's tournament, there wasn't a favorite going into a game till about halfway through when some teams started to drift away. Otherwise, I don't think there's a favorite starting.
Quick question, and this is something we'll confirm very shortly. Joe, I'll come to you first on that. Big talk about Sunil Narayan, big talk about matchups. Didn't play that opening game. Would you put him in for this particular one?
First, what I want to do is that what you're going to see a lot of Owen Morgan is something like this happening. 4E or whatever. So, the story is that they have an analyst who's been the white ball analyst for English cricket called Nathan Lehman. And he's been specially bought in by the ECB. Very interesting, Harsha. He's been bought in. The ECB has loaned him because they felt that him working with Morgan would just give them free experience for the T20 World Cup. But that's what this current Kolkata lineup believes in, matchups. So they're going to turn around and say, Harbhajan to Rohit Sharma, things like that. Break them down into little pieces. Rohit Sharma. So Sunil Narayan is definitely has something on Rohit Sharma. Now, I don't think Rohit Sharma loses too much sleep about it because this has been over quite a few seasons. Remember, Sunil Narayan and Rohit Sharma has been playing each other over 10 odd years. So, it's not that easy for, I don't think Rohit thinks that much about it. But Kolkata might just look at it and said, Rohit is vulnerable to spin. Let's give him something like Sunil Narayan, which he does like up front.
Joy, what was that graphic you held up? 4E. Only that many sections. Which is that school in Kolkata that has got 4Y?
South Point.
6U.
South Point School. It used to be the second largest school in the world after the school in the Philippines. And forget the sections. When you had to go in lunchtime to relieve yourself, you had to wait 15 minutes to get a chance.
So that's probably the only school where you can't say I'm in 6Z because you might be in 6Z2 or something. Anyway.
And there's a morning and an evening. So it's like a double header, which we haven't had yet in the tournament so far.
Yeah, but a good thing to see. I'm just looking down on the Cricbuzz app. Not many changes. Kolkata have not made a change, and Mumbai made just the one predictable change. So the teams are not moving things around too much.
Well, yes, predictable was Q for quarantine, Q for Quinton. That's what he had to go through. And now he is back in the side, opening the batting, presumably with Rohit Sharma. So, as you said, that is the expected change from Kolkata's point of view, none at all. But just let's stay with this for a moment, Harsha. What difference does this make with Quinton back in this lineup?
Oh, just everyone knowing each other. I mean, Chris Lynn did nothing wrong. Maybe Quinton de Kock is a little more explosive at the start. Chris Lynn used to be, but isn't now. Now Chris Lynn wants his 15 balls. Quinton de Kock, I think, is a little more explosive at the start. So in my mind, it was a no-brainer. They were going to go back. Quinton de Kock's been fantastic for Mumbai last couple of years. I mean, his assault on Rabada last year's final was sight for sore eyes. So I didn't. The only change I considered was given the number of left-handers. You got a Nitish Rana, you've got an Owen Morgan, you've got a Shakib. I wondered whether they'd play Jayant Yadav, but this is a statement of confidence in Rahul Chahar.
Is it also a statement of confidence for the men in Purple Joy that we're not seeing any changes? We briefly spoke about Sunil Narayan. Would he come in? Won't he come in? Now, it's not a reflection on Sunil Narayan. Is it a reflection on the 11 that played the last game?
Yeah, no, I think it's a measure of confidence. They probably, unless they see a very, very specific reason to make a change, they wouldn't make it. The thing about it is, if you see these two lineups, the one thing that Mumbai would do, especially if they're batting first, which maybe SRH did not do so successfully, is they will try and put pressure on the young KKR bowlers. You see, Varun Chakravarti and Prasidh Krishna bowled 8 of those 20 overs. And they will feel that they will take their chances. They will not want, because see, whatever it is, Shakib, Andre Russell, these are all veteran players. You know, Pat Cummins, they played international cricket. They know how to soak pressure. These guys will be saying, I know Prasidh Krishna is a great bowler and he bowled at Jaffa. The ball he got bowled to get Warner was absolutely fantastic. But if he says step out of the crease, if he hit him for a few, is his head going to start drooping? Mumbai is very good at this. They will put pressure on inexperience wherever they have a chance. And they'll take the chances for a while, yeah.
I'm also expecting Rohit Sharma to play the first ball today because they've got Harbhajan in the side. I presume he's there in the side once again to bowl to Quinton de Kock. So I won't be surprised if Rohit takes the first ball, or they might just tell Quinton de Kock. I mean, you've played so many left-handers over the years, man. So, but it'll be interesting if Rohit Sharma takes first strike. Will they pull out? Will they pull out Harbhajan?
Yeah, it's going to be that waiting game. But for all of you, don't play a waiting game. We've given you the teams, just that one solitary change. Chris Lynn out, Quinton de Kock in, as expected since he's finished his quarantine period. It means that you now have the 22 players you can choose from for your My 11 Circle team. And a quick reminder, this is how you get it in. Download the app, get in there. It's 11 players that you need to choose. Of course, you nominate your captain and vice captain, and once you've done that, you can wait for us to give us a few little tips as we try and give you through the show. So before we go any further on a discussion, gentlemen, we have got 3 smart picks. And of course, the other big news is this year it's 1 for 1. And if you happen to go out for a bit of entertainment in Kolkata, 1 for 1 means something completely different. But here, make note, it's 1 rupee for 1 crore. That is the magic mantra. So if you can get that in your head, these are our smart picks that we've brought out for you. Harsha, I'm going to come to the first pick for you from Mumbai side. We said Rohit Sharma. Yes, he loves the Eden Gardens, but there's no Eden Gardens for him here. It's still Kolkata as an opposition.
It is, but Rohit Sharma got run out in the last game, and Rohit Sharma hasn't had great IPLs for a while now. So I'm really looking to Rohit Sharma to set the pace here. I won't be surprised if he goes hard from the top, because he said that last game they were 20-30 short, and the game after that also was a sort of 180 kind of game. So I think they're setting themselves up, even though it's a different surface today, they're setting themselves up for a 180. There's one side is only 60-meter boundary, it's a shorter boundary. So my feeling is he might start to go hard from the top. And if he does, can you imagine Sanju Samson one day, Rohit Sharma the other? Stop what you're doing, you know. So I'm hoping that's what he does up front. But I mean, Rohit Sharma is in everybody's white ball team, and the numbers tell a different story. So I'm hoping he can correct those.
Yes, I did have Sanju Samson in my 11 Circle team yesterday. Made him vice captain.
Oh,
Rich reward. Yes, I did.
One of those days.
one of those days when the artist painted the canvas and actually finished the painting. Just that last blob that he was putting in, that got it taken away. But Joy, these are the numbers. These are the reason why we've put in Rohit Sharma as the first of our three smart picks. Yes, at times when you look at in terms of being a slow starter, as Mumbai can be. They lose their opening game, people already start saying that, oh, that's it, the trophy is theirs. But even for Rohit Sharma, it's a little similar.
Yeah, absolutely. He likes to wake up slightly late, and Rohit is a good Borivali boy. Get up in the morning. Doesn't like to reach net practice at 6:30 in the morning. But give him that afternoon, and he's set and he's had his cup of chai. He's a fantastic player. And look, again, I feel genuinely that they're going to try and put pressure up front, because exactly as Harsha said, I think one of the things that has gone across in this year's tournament is totals are going to go higher. Totals are going to rise just because of the number of runs that are being scored out here and the kind of pitches that are here. Totals have to go up. And remember one thing, this caravan will move. So that means, you're not going to stay in Chennai too long. You're going to move again to another city. So I think expect at least a 7, 8, 10 run increase in this year's IPL over last year's. And I think Rohit and all these guys in the Mumbai analytics team would have noted it and said, we just have to up the ante.
Yes, no matter what, they won't have symbols like 4E, but they'll also have a hardworking team in place putting things together. And they will know one of their boys, Harsha, will have only one approach. He has only one gear. He's been caught for speeding in the past, but nowadays he's mostly caught for speeding on a cricket field. Ishan Kishan.
Has he been caught for speeding properly actually in the past?
He was, just before he went to the Under-19 World Cup.
Oh, okay, maybe I hope he had a license then. Actually, on that 4E, I'll talk about Ishan Kishan in a minute. On that 4E, if I was in the Mumbai camp, I'd actually create a code that meant nothing. And actually keep putting it out in my dressing room. I'd say X3Y9U. And then figure it out.
You're reminding me of John Buchanan.
He came up with meaningless codes, is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying it.
Okay.
Nothing.
This was getting most of that we go away somewhere.
Okay, maybe by the end of today we'll get out at least part of that story. So let's stick to our third pick. We mentioned Rohit Sharma, we mentioned Ishan Kishan, but we've got one from the Kolkata side, and that's the former captain from last season, Dinesh Karthik. And you can see the kind of form he's been in. Didn't have necessarily a chance to show it off in the first game, Joy, but never want to count him out of any sort of game.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's played the Mushtaq Ali this year, played it very seriously. TN won the Mushtaq Ali. He's been in fantastic form. And see, he is a visibly relaxed man. See, when last year, when they talked about, there was a lot of talk about, was he forced to give up captaincy? Was he not? I mean, this year, clearly, just seeing the relationship between him and Owen Morgan, because, last year you would have said, okay, they had to patch up for the sake of the team. Clearly, they enjoy each other's cricket. Karthik is just happy coming in here and doing what he does best. And he's a fantastic cricketer. I still feel Kolkata play him too low, given the fact that they have people like Andre Russell in their team. I feel he could just bat a number or two higher. And that's my only thing. But Dinesh Karthik is a fabulous T20 cricketer. He's one of the greatest in the world. He just doesn't get enough opportunities. I hope that, they use him for more than just being a finisher.
I actually think he's best left alone to be the good boy. Just you're a good boy, don't worry. Give your insights. He's going through a good phase in life. Last year during the tournament, he was going through a personal issue. He was going through a bad phase. But this year, he's also been unveiled as the new commentator on Sky Sports for the 100, So he's looking up. But I think there's ambition still left in there. So he'll want to make an impact. My feeling is because of the bottom loading, and they sent up Andre Russell last time, everyone's only becoming a 15-ball batsman. Which is okay if you had a young Surya Kumar Yadav, as he did for Kolkata in the years gone by, say, you know what your role is as a 15-ball batsman. I think not. I think these people are far too good. They should just say, come what may. Owen Morgan is number 4, Karthik is 5, Russell is 6. They're just very, very good players. But, you went away from Nitish Rana. That harmonic progression was pretty good. Nitish Rana's harmonic score today.
Yeah, but that is interesting. How much will he score today? Because What he's due for, I can tell you, but that's not what Kolkata wants him to get.
Yeah, I mean, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. That's what you're talking about. It's an absolutely remarkable record. I mean, talk about harmonic. I mean, it's completely ridiculous. The kind of a zigzag that you'd have if you were to plot that on an X and Y axis.
I mean, would someone whisper that in his ear, saying, "By the way, aaj to zero ka din hai aapka"?
No, I think somebody would make fun of him, and he would say, "All I need to do is play out ball one," because even if they're not just a duck, it's first ball ducks. So all I need to do is play out ball one, and then the curse is gone. Whatever has happened is over.
I mean, he became a player here. He was in Mumbai and became a good player in Mumbai. So these are very good oddities. If this happens a few more times, it's like the toss. It's like the toss. I mean, it's fallen heads 7 times. There are some people who think if it falls heads 7 times, that means you can adjust the coin and toss it in a certain way so that it falls tails and throw probability out of the window, or you're playing with loaded coins. But because it's happened 3 times, that means it's going to happen a 4th time. He's far too good a player for that.
Well, let's talk about the Mumbai batting, because one more reminder to all of you that it is Kolkata who won the toss. They've asked Mumbai to bat first, and the question is their approach. Harsha, I'll come right back to you, because yes, we've kind of dismissed the head-to-head out of the window. But what you can't always dismiss is if the team themselves look back at their record, the last 5 times when they've actually batted first, they've lost 4 out of those 5. So they will need to consciously tell themselves, okay, what did we do wrong? Rohit said, maybe last time around we were 30 short. What's their approach going to be like?
I've always been a believer that if you like chasing, you must pretend you're chasing. And say, okay, I'm chasing 192. And go about doing the 192. In any case, in every chase, you want to finish it after 19 overs. And if it goes into the 20, it's okay. But all chases are structured so that you wish you finish it in 19 overs. So I wonder if that can be possible, that you tell yourself, okay, I'm chasing 184 in 19 overs and play it like that. But there is somewhere when you're batting first, there's always that question, time, which doesn't happen when you're chasing, because that's there right there in front of you. So I think what they will do, those assign roles. They'll tell Quinton de Kock, doesn't matter, when you go for it. Quinton de Kock, go for it. Ishan Kishan, go for it. Rohit Sharma, play the way that you know best. And if you got Quinton de Kock, Ishan Kishan, Surya Kumar Yadav, Hardik Pandya, Krunal Pandya, 3 of those have got to come off. 2 of those have to come off. We'll get the runs anyway. My bigger concern is, are they a bowler shot? Do they have to compensate for that when they're batting? Are they a bowler shot? Whether Hardik Pandya is going to bowl or no, that will have a big say in the match. We'll discuss that in the mid overs. Okay. I always keep going all over the place. No wonder I didn't get good marks in essay or whatever.
No, that's what a good discussion is about, Harsha. We're not restricting ourselves, but I think it's a very interesting point, Joy, that Harsha brings up about trying to chase even when you're batting first, because even Virat Kohli used to mention that about Team India. It's a challenge we need to set ourselves about trying to become a better setting team. So is that possibly the approach, or will Mumbai keep telling themselves, look, we are the champions of the last 6 overs?
No, I think they will not depend on the last six overs happening. I think what will happen is, and I've said this before, like Jacques Kallis in Kolkata was a guy who turned around. When he'd get out, he'd come back and immediately say, this is a 140 wicket, it's a 160 wicket, it's a 170 wicket. So what was par was set. And when an experienced batsman like him told you that this is what a good score on the wicket is, you immediately say that, okay, then what is it that you need to get? Again, I look around at that dressing room and there are people like Mahela Jayawardene. Zahir Khan is the greatest reader of pitches. I mean, he would sit in the studio and in Cricbuzz and tell us that, they've used the heavy roller instead of the light roller, and can somebody go and check in the field? And somebody from, our staff would call up and say, yes, they use a heavy roller. How did you know? So Zahir Khan would know exactly what that pitch is capable of. And he'd tell his guys, mujhe lagta hai ye 180 hai, ya pata hai, ya 190. He would give them some sort of a sense of it. He's a great reader of pitches. And I think that's what they'll go at. After that, if they get 15 plus, 20 plus on that, because people like, Kiran and Hardik go mad in the end, quite possible.
There's one other factor, Gautam, which is, I think on the pitch report, they said that it's a little drier surface than earlier. And if it is a little drier, then it might get a little slower as it goes along. So it might, hitting the big ones at the end might be a little more difficult. They might want to go a little early, if that is indeed what it is. I mean, pitch reports are like, you give your perception. It's when the first few balls are bowled that you actually get an idea of whether the pitch is wearing the right clothes or it was a disguise.
When you started saying that, Harsha, I thought you were coming up with a special from our good old friend Navjot Singh Sidhu. I mean, he used to talk about pitches being like wives. I wonder if he ever talked about pitch reports being like wives or some such analogy.
I don't know. All I remember about Sherry was his line about throwing a drowning man both ends of the rope. It still cracks me up when I hear that.
But since you mentioned both ends of the rope, it's whenever two teams play against each other, and we're not talking the head-to-head numbers, we're simply talking about a player who's played for one team and is now playing for the other. And I think no better example than Surya Kumar Yadav. We briefly mentioned him about being a very different role for Kolkata, that 15 kind of player. But Harsha, now that he's in Mumbai, he's almost also been the captain of the Ranji Trophy side. Very, very different role for him.
And there's an equivalent on the other side. Nitish Rana from here has gone there, and Surya Kumar Yadav from there has come here. So it's an equivalent thing, but different roles. I mean, I'm sure Joy saw a bit of that. Very different role when he was at Kolkata. Also, very different stage in his life. He's now competing he's competing with Shreyas Iyer and Sanju Samson and all the others for that one batting slot at number 3. Virat Kohli saying, I'll open the batting and allow Surya to bat at 3. It's a completely different phenomenon now. And this year, he's now an India player. The expectation is going to be, we love watching Surya. So I think there's going to be a little more pressure on him this year.
And Joy, that one shot, I mean, we can't get it out of our heads, can we? I mean, just that statement he makes his first ball in international cricket.
Oh, absolutely. And what a super cricketer. That's what he can do. See, that's one of the things. I mean, I have sat beside, I remember sitting beside, again, Jacques Kallis, and I keep coming up with him. And Surya hit that typical swivel shot, exactly the shot that he hits to 6 over, basically over long leg. And Jacques, who's probably one of the greatest players, he'd walk into an all-time Test 11 and says, how does he do that? I've looked at him in the nets. I said, how can he move his body like that? But the interesting part about Surya is not just that he was a Kolkata player who's gone to Mumbai. He's a Mumbai player who did the hard yards in Mumbai, couldn't break into a very strong team, came to Kolkata, made his way as a regular in the IPL, and then made his way back to Mumbai.
So that's what Kolkata is. Kolkata is just a little training ground to be able to have a higher goal of playing for Mumbai.
It's called the university city. All I love.
By the way, they've also given Shakib a cap for his 50th game for KKR, apparently. So it's his 50th game for KKR. I still don't think he's been the player that he can be. So let's see. But I didn't realize he played 50 games.
Yeah, actually, in 2011, he was a regular. Till Sunil Narayan came on the scene, Shakib was a regular. After that, it really depended on whether you could play 2 spinners. Even then, for a while, then it was between those 3 all-rounders. There was Shakib, there's Sunil Narayan, of course, who was looked on more as a bowler in those days, and Shakib and Jacques Kallis. And then, which of these do you play?
Yeah.
One question to finish with on Surya, Harsha. Point blank question. How important is this tournament for Surya Kumar Yadav to say, I am an integral member of that Indian team now?
Yes. I mean, he's had 2 outstanding years. In fact, 3 good years, but 2 outstanding years so far. He has another 500-run season. And he sent a message to everybody saying, in October, I'm starting at number 3. So he has a 350 season. It doesn't mean it's the end. But it's a 350 season. People will say, okay, maybe there's a little opening in the door somewhere. But I think everybody's bought into the fact that he's a special talent. At this stage in life, he's batting very differently. So I think now there's an expectation on him to deliver a 450, 500 year. I mean, if he delivers a 600 year, I mean, he's like Sanju Samson. He makes 30, you remember that.
Yeah, and the way this entire discussion, Joy, started, if you put that in context about all these players on the fringe and not even close to national selection, Surya will have that added factor. Now that I've cemented my place, hang on, who are these people?
You know what, the Indian team today reminds me of booking for a train in the 80s in India. RSC1, RSC2, RSC3, RSC4, all these people who don't have berths, they have places to sit, but they don't have berths, and they're all waiting for a berth. All these guys are lined up. There's so many of them out there, it's unbelievable.
I think that's a fabulous analogy. I was trying to think of a really good one, and I think the RAC just hits the nail on the head, Harsha.
So let's do a poll. How many people watching this know what RAC is? How many of you have run behind a TT for 1 hour, just stood in his peripheral vision so that he sees you and his birth milega? We've all done that. How many of you know what RAC is, or do you all just go on Make My Trip or somewhere and look at the lowest price and just buy a ticket and go? So, but it's a very good parallel. That I'm there, I'm in the train. I don't have a berth, but I'm still sitting in a corner there. Those two side ones where they gave 3 people's seats, and then when one went off, you got the 2 berths. Joy's parallel is absolutely spot on. There are people sitting there waiting for that.
The only difference, I'll say, Harsha, is they're not sitting in a corner. They're hovering over your head. They're making sure that you get noticed. They used to probably at one point in time be these meek people who are like, please, sir. Now they're
the meek guys never got the berth. The meek guys never got the berth. You have to keep chasing the TT.
All right, so come on. When you give us your joy factor answer, try and throw this one in as well on #Cricbuzz Live. We love to hear from you as well. Quick discussion on one player. Quick one from both of you. Pat Cummins, again, had a slightly different role. Where do you see him bowling today, Joy?
I think, again, it's going to be matchups. And what somebody like Morgan would be doing is saying, Pat, you are our lead bowler. I need wickets up front from you, so I'll give you 1. I may give you 2 if the first over goes well. I'll bring you in the middle. He's not going to bowl 2 overs at the end. He's going to bowl 1 in the middle. He's going to be their designated wicket taker. That's how Morgan used him the last match as well. And that's what apparently the word from the Kolkata camp is emerging. He's our lead bowler. It's his job to get wickets. Throw the ball to him when you need a wicket.
I mean, everyone talked about Rana and Tripathi. The game turned with that 1 over to Johnny Bairstow. Cummins to Bairstow was the over that turned the match.
Yeah, we remember that particular over from Pat Cummins. Well, one final reminder, it is Kolkata who are bowling first, having won the toss. One final order of business. What's the quiz question going to be like from Joy Bhattacharya? Joy, where do you rate that before you even ask the question?
Okay, this is not the toughest question, but it's one of the questions I've had most fun setting. I love this question. Just take a look. Okay, the question for the day is, which all-rounder has played 6 ODIs, 1 historic T20I, and exactly 60 tests for his country?
I like that. I like that 1 historic T20I, the exact number of tests. It's not giving it away. You've got to do a little thinking, got to do a little research. Harsha's already deep in thought. And
but last time I thought I had it. It turned out to be one of the comic moments of Cricbuzz life. I've got a train of thought. Let's see. Okay.
All right. There you go. See how
this is all about the train of thought, Harsha. It's about RSC. It's a train of thought, Harsha. And I think you've got it.
Okay. Oh dear. All right. Also, of course, if you like to hear our lovely stories.
Okay, I won't say anything. Say anything.
Yeah. I have no idea where I'm going. All I'm saying is, okay, no more hints, because I think a lot of people have already started chucking their answers in. If there are some of you who like exclusive content, let's just remind you about Cricbuzz Plus. You can get on the app, and the app will direct you how to get there for some really good exclusive content, which you need to subscribe to. It'll be ad-free, and it's I can tell you, it's well worth getting in there. I've got in there, and I was fascinated from whatever little is there right now, and it'll keep getting added to.
I'm excited by it. I'm excited. I think it's a big new thing in the digital sports world. Cricbuzz Plus is going to be huge.
It certainly is. For now, Harsha, I know we've let you off the hook in terms of the question, which you can talk about later. Number prediction for Mumbai, having been asked to bat first. They need to add the runs. How many will they get?
Let me go back to my good luck charm. 187.
187. Okay. I'm going to go. Joy, do you want to go next?
Happy to. I'm going to go high. 199.
Okay, that's fine. I was not going to go higher anyway. I'm going to firmly stay lower. If it is going to be a little bit dry, Mumbai will push for it. But 169 is what I'm going for. 169. I mean, you can throw things at me if you're a Mumbai fan, and it's not because I'm necessarily on the other side. It's just a gut feeling about the number. Of course, Cricbuzz Combox will be back at the halfway stage of the first innings in the 10th over. We'll try and see where Mumbai are, how far to 169 or 199 have they got. We'll be there. Or, of course, 187 is sitting very pretty as Harsha's good luck charm. Thank you, Harsha. Thank you, Joy. So much more conversation to come. This is Cricbuzz Live, brought to you in association with our fantasy partner, My 11 Circle.